Welcome, everyone, to the blended learning. Well, not really, but kind of. So, blended learning is when you have students in class one day and then they're home the next day, or the idea maybe of being on a schedule in which you see them regularly, but they're also at home regularly. Where we are right now, I don't see professionally as blended learning because I don't see some of my students ever. They're always online, so it is blended learning in a way because we are blending um, our learning patterns to teach both in class and at home. And in some cases, we're kind of forgetting that some of our students are in home. So let's or in class. So let's talk a little bit about what we're looking at. So when we're talking about blending our classes and blending our learning into a um, pattern in which students are going to get involved, we've got to do a couple things. And the first thing we need to do is set a goal. Um, and I know a lot of teachers set goals in the beginning of the year, but this one has got to be a little different. All right, they're going to respond better if they feel like they're completing a goal, and the goals should be something that's attainable. It should be something that the students can buy into. It's tough right now to even say to you because all of you are on such different levels with students and classes and what you're teaching and things. For me to say to you, this is a good goal is almost impossible. But students need to know that there's attainable goals in what's going on because they need to feel like there's some normalcy. So if you can sit down and figure out a goal that as a class they could all do, listen, you're all going to read this book by the end of the marking period, all right? Especially for the little guys and little girls, right? Read this book by the end of the marking period, and it's something that they can do. And hey, we're 10 days out. How are we doing with our book? And you're using that as a way to talk. That's a great way to get them to engage. Empowering students when opportunities arise, and they don't always arise, allow them to make some choices, decide some paths, be creative. I do find that when I allow students the ability to make some choices, to decide the path that they're going to take, to be creative in how they're going to build something, um, they're less likely to drop the ball on what they're working on. It gives them that this is what I wanted to do, and sometimes it's not tied specifically, directly to what I'm doing. And I'll give you a good for instance. I didn't do it this year because we're not at this point yet, but I did allow students at one point to pick something from the 1920s that they really enjoyed historically. And I made them, they had to create a museum using Google Slides. And in that, what I found was that the students, because it was their choice. Some of them did fashion of the 1920s, and they bought into it so well. So when I started teaching online like this, and in this quote unquote blended situation, I started finding ways to do that same thing. How am I going to build things for them to pick the opportunities to try? One of the things that I did was I'm using every month they have to create or come up with a person of the month. So for instance, February is Black History Month. They'll do Black History Month. They get to pick a person in Black history that has somehow affected the world that we live in. And a lot of them have come up with some really cool things that don't in not too long ago, we did Native American. And some of the people or some of the individuals that students researched and found and gave arguments on why they should be was very awesome. And it was empowering to them. And I saw that not all, because I don't know that we'll ever get 100% buy-in, but a great many students did that in comparison to the general work that I was giving. They were more focused, so I felt that empowered them. So give them some opportunities. Conversations are a must. Students are going to be harder to reach, especially now. If they're just talked out, you're going to have an issue. Get them to engage in a conversation. And trust me, I know that's a lot easier said than done. I do find that using the Google Groups that can be made makes it a lot better. It is something that has really changed the way that I do my class. I break my classes up on a regular basis into Google groups, and let them converse and let them, because realize that, I mean, not a lot of, but some of them are still socially distancing. They don't get to see their friends, they don't get to talk in classes. So using that allows them to converse and have that discussion. And then you can jump in and talk and be part of that discussion. So conversations are a must. Now, again, I'm gonna say that it's going to be harder for the little ones, because they are. I know I have a first grader, and listening sometimes when she has at home school is tough for the teacher, because you got to mute everybody because everybody's talking a mile a minute. But it is nice when the students get to speak a little bit and get to get involved and see their classmates and some of their thoughts. Be hands on, building, creating, using motor skills to build will get your students more involved. We know that hands on is always more effective than just reading a book. How do we do that here? Well, sometimes the creating can be online. It can be building a picture with Google Draw. It can be having them find things, go on a scavenger hunt. But it's got to be something that gets them involved more than just mentally. There's got to be some physical involvement, and I'll give you a great example. Again, I'm going to go with Charlotte, our first grader last year when she was in kindergarten. Their teacher would do a scavenger hunt, go find something that's blue, and the students would have to go out and find something blue and come back. And you know what? It was something that they did. It really didn't deal with the lesson, but it allowed them to get involved, to get up and run around for a minute and come back. And all right, what's she going to say next? What's going to happen? So it was creative. It was running around. It was being motor skills. For the older kids, building things online. Finding ways to use your lessons to allow them to be the creative portion of the lesson. That's the hands-on right now. Is kind of building. And I mean, listen, you could even have them find household items and build this and send me a picture. And you have to start kind of blending in what you were doing at school and being a little bit more creative. Teacher role. Technology is just a helper. You guys are the main source of everything. So always keep that in mind, that technology is not doing your job for you. Try things and admit they don't work sometimes. The more honest you are, the better it is. I find that, especially with students I've had in years past, that when I get them back around, I'll tell them, man, I hate this one. This is stupid. I'm not doing this anymore. And we stop. I'll be in the middle of a lesson and I'm trying something new. And I'll take it. Hey guys, quick poll. What do you guys think? And I actually used to Google Meet poll up in the top right hand corner. I said, what do you guys think? Yes, keep going, or no? And they'll say yes or no. All right, then we're going to try something different. And you know what? They appreciate that, because they know that I'm worried about what they're learning and how they're learning it, and not force feeding them while we're doing things. And again, every grade is different. Everything that happens is different. But honestly, admitting that this did not work is an okay thing. You have to do that sometimes. Don't try to teach at the same pace as you would in class. I have a problem with that. I try to keep it up, but it doesn't happen. The students need more guidance. They need more practice time, especially if there's no one there to physically help them. So remember, some of these kids don't have parents at home. They don't have older brothers and sisters that can help them all the time, because they are also doing schoolwork and things like that. So although we need to keep pace as best we can, don't think that you're going to get everything accomplished that you would, because I don't know how that we could do that, especially on A day and B day and blue week and gold week. And it's tough. So don't try to pace yourself so fast. Okay. Make sure that we're getting the big picture. Use Google Meet groups to have smaller discussions and connect. I said that. Some days the only adult they're ever going to see is you. So make sure that you're there. Make sure you're present with them so that they get that. Be flexible. To an extent, it's okay to allow more time, more practice, and due dates can be hard on all of our students at home. If you force due dates on students. It's not as easy as you think it is. Older ones are babysitting. Some of them are working to make ends meet right now because of unemployment and things, or some of them are just trying to hold on to some normalcy. I get that we have expectations and we have things that we have to accomplish. I get that, but also try to remember that um, as adults, as teachers, we're having a hard time keeping up with all of this. Imagine, students trying to do it. So it is something that you need to kind of take a moment and breathe. I am usually very strict on my due dates and very strict on what I expect. And with my AP kids, I still am not going to lie, but with the other students, I'm finding that I'm a little less strict, a little more forgiving, a little bit more talkative to these students because this is a tough time. Be a student yourself. All right, review programs and ideas. We're putting all of this together for you. Um, you know, try to go back and learn some new things, try some new things, see what else there is. You don't want your class to get boring. You don't want it to be the same thing day in and day out. You want them to come there with a desire to be there, that you want them to talk to you. And you do that by making it more interesting. And if you do the same thing every single day, it's going to be tough. I can tell you, I have some classes that I feel like no matter what I do, they don't want to be there. No matter how fun I try to make it. One class, I'll do something, and they're like, "Woohoo! Let's do this again tomorrow." And the next class, I don't even see a face. I see all icons, and no one talks to me. So, just do your best and be a student yourself. Review programs, try new ideas. Don't just get stagnant in what you're working on. Class time. Teach to both groups. I find myself doing this more and more as time goes on. Don't forget that the kids that are sitting there in front of you, that relationship is just as important. I tend to mentally pick one person on the computer to answer a question, one person in class to answer a question. I don't want to forget that those students that are here are trying to get some normalcy too, and they need that relationship. And in between classes and in between bells, I like to talk to them and have conversations, and so that is important. So just don't forget, don't think that just because kids are at home and you're teaching with a computer, that doesn't mean that you have to forget about the students that are in front of you. When possible, give students in class a hands-on lesson. If they're writing a paper at home, let them physically write the paper in class. Give them paper and pencil. Let them write it out. If they're supposed to be creating something at home, if you have stuff in your class, let them physically create it in your class. Let it be more normalcy than usual. Because it is, why did they come to school if they're just doing it online with everyone else? They might as well have just stayed home. But we want them to come back. We want them to feel comfortable. We want them to be happy in our classes. So when you can, now I'm not saying, hey, you have to do 2 separate lessons. Absolutely not. But again, if they're writing a paper, let them write the paper. If they're, if at home, they're supposed to be, doing something on the computer, if you can find a way for them to do it hands-on in class, let them do that, because that's separating the two is pretty important, I think. Not all work has to be on the screen. Give directions, let them work, bring them back together. I like telling my students, hey, here's what we're going to do. You're going to go and you're going to read this item, and you're going to create a thesis. And I'm going to give you 10 minutes. I want you to get your thesis, and I want you to come back together, and I want you to put it into a Google slide, and then we're going to discuss everyone's thesis. Go and give them time, give them directions. They, to me, especially with the ones at home, I can't see them behind the icon. I don't even know if they're there sometimes. But what I found is if I give them 10 minutes, if I give them 5 minutes, if I give them 15 minutes and tell them that they have to come back, I tend to get a lot more responses that way. So not all of it has to be screen time. If you can get them to do stuff at home on paper and then, picture it and send it in. And I know with the little guys, I constantly feel bad for the teachers of the little ones. because it is tough. They don't have the cell phones and all of those things to just kind of jump on. But if you can make it so that it's something that they can work on and bring back, that's pretty great. It gives them the ability to kind of get their eyes off of that screen, and do some things like a normal student would do, and use technology for what it is. It's a tool. It's not the teacher. Don't sit down every day and say, okay, how am I going to do this on the computer today? Sometimes the best teacher is just talking to your students and going through, the discussion points of what needs to get done. So, it's just give that idea. It's just a tool. It's not the teacher. It's not perfect. It's not going to be there every day. Sometimes we're going to lose internet. Sometimes students at home are going to lose internet. Um, the world that we live in is quite changed. So when you think about how you're dealing with the things at your house, um, imagine what it's like at some of these kids' houses, and just remember that they're missing out on friendships. They're missing out on, homecomings. They're missing out on, snow days. Anyway, we don't have snow days anymore. So they're missing out on so much, just in the general school situation. Don't let them miss out on you, because I think that's the biggest thing when we're talking about blended teaching and blended learning. We are blending the content, we're blending the way we give it, but um, don't rely on the internet and the computer to be the educational mode. Just let be you. If something goes wrong, laugh at it and move on. If something goes right, pat yourself on the back, give yourself a thumbs up, and keep going. But, when you're talking about blended learning, the traditional blended learning is that you're half at home and half at school. We're not there. We are far from there. And as teachers, I think that that's something that we have to remember, that technology is a tool. It is not the teacher. That these kids are going through a lot more than we really thought they ever would. So just use it as a tool, and keep going. But don't ever stop trying to learn new ways to do things, because that will, really help you to continue. So, that's my spiel on blended learning, and how it works. Um, your overall objective in this is to try and make it a personable way of learning, while never actually seeing some of these kids in person. So whatever you can do to, um, make it better, give it a shot and share it out with everybody. All right. I hope that helps. Have a great day, and we will talk to you all later.